You ever wondered if the advice you're following for growing a general contracting business that makes money is wrong? Well, I believe it is, and it's holding you back. I know because in 2017, I ignored a lot of it and still tripled my business, a general contracting business, by three times. I've now used this system for myself as well as multiple clients who are generating well over seven figures annually. I'm excited because today, I'm going to be giving you the exact blueprint to go from 0 to 3 million in your general contracting business without worrying about unpredictable income and getting stuck in that 70 plus hour work week that so many contractors year after year are still grinding it out. So I'm going to do a deep dive to discover exactly what to focus on, how to ignore the awful, outdated advice out there, start getting results like the ones you see on screen here. You may be wondering, will this actually work for me? Okay, this will work for people who actually want to provide a high level service as a quality construction management company doing larger home builds, general contractors. If you're a subcontractor, this advice will be relevant. Go ahead and watch. But this has been proven with general contracting companies and who it's catered for. The thing I like about this system is that it's the most sustainable one. It's the one that allows you to get results quicker, yet limit the risk of financial ruin, which I've been through. It sucks. And I'm going to help you out, make sure that you can even that storm. It'll help you build up a large team so you don't get burnt out. So what is the strategy? The big strategy here is you're not taking on any project. You're not doing everything under the sun. General does not mean general everything, right? You're a general contractor, but you'll have a specific thing that you do. So just taking on all the projects you can and taking in all the work that you can is a disaster situation. You do not want to get there. Working harder. This is a quick way to burn out. It's a quick way to maybe get some results, but then you either plateau or you start to nosedive after a while because it's not sustainable. You're working too hard and you're not developing the skills that are really needed from a high level business owner to be able to delegate, to manage, to systematize the business. We're going to be going through all that. And then hiring quickly. This is another problem that often happens with contractors as you grow. You want to get things off your plate. I understand you want to delegate. You want to hire that project manager, the estimator, the admin person, whoever it is. You hire too quickly. You don't have a system in place. And you hire when business is going really good. And eventually there may be a dip or plateaus and you expect it to keep going up. And now you're in this difficult situation where you've increased your overhead for a business that's larger than what your business actually is. So we're showing you how to mitigate that as well. What this is for is you want high value projects. We're going to be going through exactly what to do with margins, markup, and estimating to make sure that you are valuing your services and you're bringing in projects that are going to help you grow long term. Time saving systems. You know me, I'm all about systems. So the strategy is heavily dependent on building systems. When you're smaller and wherever that may be, maybe you're already doing 1 million or 2 million, you want to get to that 3 to 5 million, whatever it may be. But building the systems where you're at before you start to really push things and scale and grow. And then looking at long-term thinking, long life team. So having a team in place, whether this is your professional team of business owners that you know, or also your internal team of inside your company. So those are the big kind of strategy components. And we're going to be going through this. There's 11 steps to this. So stay tuned. You're going to want to need to stay tuned because every step builds off the other and every one helps to make sure that you're reaching your end goal as fast as possible. You're not missing steps. And that's the reason where people get stuck. They skip a step and now they think that they're farther ahead, but actually you're farther behind. So the number one first step we're going to talk about is mindset. And you're maybe thinking, just tell me what I need to do, but we got to get the mindset right. And there's 4 quick components I'm going to mention here as far as mindset. The first thing is long-term thinking. This is going to take 1, 2, 3 years. You may even think that I can grow to 3 million, 5 million, whatever it may be within a year or two. That's most likely not the case. We generally over evaluate what we can do in a year or two and undervalue what we can do in 3 to 5 years. So this process to go, depending where you're at, to get to 3 or 5 million, if that's your end goal, expect it to take anywhere from, I've seen it done in 2 to 3 years, but typically 3 to 5 years is a much more normal kind of timeline. So just check yourself there. And as much as you want to push hard, you want to set that foundation for future growth and you will get there. You just got to realize that there is a process to this. Second point is control your ego. You don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of other people that know things that you don't know, as well as your competitors are better than you for a reason. So you may say, my company's better. Well, why? I provide better service. That may be true. I have more experience. That may be true. But you have all these other competitors in the landscape, and they're probably doing a lot larger revenues, a lot bigger projects than you. And there's a reason for that. So you're not just realize you're not as good as what you may think, and you may not be as smart or know everything that you think you know. If the results aren't there, that means there's a knowledge gap. Drop your ego because there's a lot of stuff you need to learn and a lot of things you need to get right and figure out to get there. It's not just that you need the time. There's stuff that's missing. That's the reason that you haven't got there yet. So just realizing that, have that learning, that apprentice mindset. Grow and care for your power team. Business is a team sport. It's about who you bring with you to that end goal. So you're going to 3 million, you're going to 5 million, whatever it may be. Who are you bringing with you? You need a team to support you. You need people on your side. That could be your internal team, but also most likely it's going to be other business owners, maybe other contractors. You're going to need your sub trades. You're going to need your financial person, accountant, bookkeepers, like all these different people and your referral networks of massive people. So really, this is a very valuable asset. Your network is your net worth. So realizing that you need to care and grow your power team, your referral network, your whatever you might call it. And then the last thing on mindset here, I'm going to say is set focused goals. Yeah, you want to get to 3 million. Great. What's it going to take and how do you build out the steps to get there and visualize, keep that goal really top of line and then chunk it down into like monthly, quarterly, weekly even so that you can see what do I need to do every day? What do I need to do every week? What do we need to achieve this quarter so that in 2 to 3 years we can reach that 3 million goalpost that we're striving for. All right. Now your brain is like top notch, smart, doing good. You've got the mindset. Now we're moving on to the second step. And that is branding. And this is one where a lot of contractors skip or they do it too fast. If you're like me, in school, it's like, let's just get this assignment done so we can get outside and go to recess and have some fun, right? Well, spend a little bit of time on this and get your branding right. So first thing is dream client. You should have a very clear picture of who your dream client is. Where do they live? What kind of social economic background do they have? What's their family status? What type of work or job might they do? All these different things that you really need to know your client. Whoever knows the client best wins the sale at the end of the day. I'm sure you've had this experience where you've talked to a salesperson, they just get you. They understand you, you have that connection, they understand your needs, and somehow they know more about you than you do. That's what you need to be. You need to know their pain points, their frustrations, what they're embarrassed about, what their aspirations are for the future, all these different things. What's the big conflicts in their life? Like getting really dialed into who is your dream client. That'll set things up right from the get-go. Next, you want to find your market fit. So if you're a home builder and you're just another home builder in your city, you're competing against maybe hundreds or thousands potentially of other home builders or general contractors or people that build homes, whatever they may call themselves. So what kind of homes do you build? What level? Do you build spec? Do you build custom? Do you build a certain type of custom? Do you integrate design? How are you different? And how can you differentiate yourself in the market so that you're in a blue ocean instead of a red ocean? So red oceans are contested waters. That's where the sharks swim. That's where all the action is. It seems like there's lots of money there, but there's a lot of sharks there. There's a lot of big companies already there. So you need to find yourself a blue ocean. If you're going to go swimming, if you're going to go fishing, you want to be in a blue ocean where there's not a bunch of other hunters and predators. So you can be that top shark, that top dog in your market. So you need to differentiate yourself. This alone will set you up for success so much quicker than a lot of the other stuff, because this is where your entire company is built off of your brand and where you fit in the market and who your client is, and all these good things. So from that, you figure out your niche. And then the last kind of piece of the puzzle here is you need to do some analysis of your competitors. You may think, I don't need to know about my competitors. As long as I'm doing the best I can possibly do, it doesn't matter what they're doing. That is not right. You need to understand your competitors in the marketplace. Not that you need to be worried about competing with them, but you should understand who they are, what they're doing, and kind of keep a pulse on what's happening, because you can see who's doing what. And you can, again, know at least that you are differentiating yourself from the other competitors in your home area. So the branding niche part of your business, it's something that gets refined over time, but it's super important because everything else in the business stems from that. Your marketing, your sales, from there, your estimating projects, your client experience, everything else gets built on top of your brand. All right, now step number 3. This next step will help you get 5 times faster results. So if normally like this process takes a lot of guys like 10 years, you can get that down to 2 to 3, which is what I mentioned earlier. So 5 times faster results just with these couple of habits. The first habit is 2 hours per week on systems. You know me, I love systems. You need to chunk out time at least 2 hours per week. If you can do more, great. I would suggest taking an afternoon off every week. If you're like, I'm already way overworked, work on a Saturday a little bit. Do what you need to do to get it done. But you need to be building systems and processes. Your business is the product, and you need to recognize that this business as a product needs to be valuable in and of itself. It's not the money that is generating. Yes, that's a part of it, but the business system, the structure, this is what's going to be valuable, because that's what you can later step away from, and you can sell it, you can pass it on, you can just use it as an asset that turns out money for you. So build your business as an asset. Set aside those 2 hours per week to work specifically on systems. The second habit is spend 2 hours a week learning, and not just learning about random business stuff, but really focused learning. And this is a skill. Learning is a skill. There's a way to learn quicker, there's a way to learn faster, and there's a way to get better results from your learning. So if you have a problem, a bottleneck in your business, let's say it's marketing, you need to study marketing, get books, watch videos, make action lists, start taking action, talk to marketers, talk to everybody and anybody you know about marketing, and just live and learn marketing until it doesn't become a problem. Avoid everything else. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of information online. You need to like put the blinders on and just like pick the right resources or the people that you want to follow or people that you know have got success with something, and just do that and live and breathe that until you've mastered it, so that you can move on to the next thing. Don't get scattered. You need focus. And then the last few things I'm just going to mention on kind of personal habits is go to bed a little earlier, wake up a little earlier, get rid of like social media, Netflix. It's not that you're not going to have any, but realize when you're getting distracted and make sure you've got that morning routine. You start work and you finish work. And whether you work 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours per day, whatever that is, make sure in that time that you're working, you are actually working and just staying super focused, like I mentioned before. So kind of the last thing I mentioned, which sort of said before, but work a little bit on Saturdays. I talked about not working hard. There should be some fun and some play in your work. So for me, I still work Saturdays sometimes because I enjoy what I do, but Saturdays are like a fun day. Like I enjoy the work that I do. So it's like, this could be your systems day. What do you kind of enjoy doing for your business? Maybe that's your learning day, whatever it may be, but use that to get the edge on everybody else who's either not working or working, in their business, trying to generate money instead of working on their business, trying to generate a valuable asset. All right, moving on to step number 4. Before I mention that, check out the description below. We've got a free masterclass on how to build systems in your business. I know I mentioned that earlier as far as like how important systems are. We've got a masterclass that will walk you through exactly how to pinpoint which systems to put into your business and how to get them implemented. So check out the description below. Click the link, go get the masterclass after watching this video or now and watch the rest now. So market. That's step number 4. Now that you've got things set up, we've got the mindset, the plans, all that kind of stuff, you need to market like crazy. And the reason you want to do this is because you want excess demand. You want that lineup out at the door. When they're selling a new iPhone or new Xbox or PlayStation 78 or whatever it is by now, you want that huge lineup of people banging on your door like, build me a home, build me my tenant fit out for my new restaurant or whatever, right? So that is what you need, and you want that demand because you've created that demand, not because the economy is really bumping or because there's no other good contractors out there. You've created this demand because you've done so much marketing and your marketing is so on point and you've so nailed your niche that you've got all these people wanting to do business with you, but you're like, sorry, we only have this much capacity. We're not going to take on everybody's job, because that's just going to build that bulge and you're going to have this up and down and up and down. And you may have already experienced this if you've been in business for, anywhere from a couple of years to multiple years. And I'm still surprised myself when this will happen and you don't expect it, because just naturally as entrepreneurs, I think we're optimistic. Business is doing good. It's like, yeah, I finally got my break. We're finally making strides and business is good. And then so you start hiring people, you start growing your business. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, 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 no. And things start to die down and level off, right? So that's why you want this big demand built up through marketing. And then you're going to schedule out projects. And I'm going to walk you exactly through the numbers of like leads and money and margins and all that stuff in just a bit. So stay tuned. But essentially, you want all this demand and you want to schedule out projects so that you've got work kind of lined up for at least 1 to 2 years out. And then you're sitting in a good spot because now you're not stressing about money. You can see that growth curve. If you're getting like a massively big demand and it's steady, now you can start to ratchet up your operations and kind of grow as the demand grows. But you always want to make sure you're not reaching demand. If you have 5 new clients come to you who want to build a home and you just don't have the capacity for it, don't try to scramble and hire a project manager and quickly fulfill everybody's need. Let them know that you love to do your project, but right now we're scheduling out 6 months, or this is where we can fit you in our pipeline, or whatever. And be willing to let a job go if you need to, because you know overall in the long term it's going to be healthier for your business. There's this like psychology thing that happens as well with clients when, even if they're like, oh, I don't really want to wait that long, or we're really hoping to get started sooner, but it's like this builder, like, wow, they must be really good if they're booked out and they can schedule us in and whatever, right? So there's this, like, it almost will help with your sales, and people may be scared because they think their closing ratio is going to go down. I would actually expect it to stay the same or go up, and this is often the case. So as far as marketing, you need a CRM. Grab a good CRM. We've got our own proprietary CRM that we offer as a marketing and sales CRM. It's called Rapid Lead. But essentially, you want to be emailing. Your email list is gold. That's an asset in your company as well. So you need to be building your email list. You need to be nurturing clients. You're going to spend all this time on marketing and bringing leads in. If you don't have a nurture sequence and a way to keep them warm over time, you're just throwing money in the trash, lighting it on fire, watching it burn. You know, that 3 million that you're looking for, it's probably in your email list. It's just you're not going to realize it for another year to 2 years, because there's going to be these people kind of on the back end that maybe it didn't work out, or they wasn't quite ready for the time or whatever. They need more time to think about it. Those people are all potential clients of yours. If you don't keep them warm in your email list or social media or like all these different things to kind of nurture them, you're just throwing all that money that you spent on advertising out the window. The next thing is start making quality content. Right now, content is as cheap as it gets. Everybody's putting out something. It's so easy nowadays, especially with the new AI platforms, to throw together some marketing and put it out there and get a nice picture and whatever, right? Everybody's doing it. Everyone's screaming from the rooftops, look at my stuff, look at my, go to my Facebook, go to my Insta. The differentiator from like the masses, the 80, 90% of like the companies out there, to the like the top 10%, is a quality. There's a quality there. And knowing your client earlier, that's why we did the branding. You now know, what are they worried about? What are their pain points? What problems do they have with talking to a contractor, with reaching out to a general contractor, with design? What are all the steps in their thinking before they ever get on a phone call with me, right? So now you can start creating content around this and make it really high quality, build that gathering. And now you've just elevated yourself a bunch above everybody else. And you're in that top 10, coveted 5-10% of builders online with the content, right? So good quality, get on video, get over yourself. I did this, I don't know, it's 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe longer. I was a general contractor. I was building a business. It felt super awkward to get on camera. I actually started YouTube videos with book reviews because I like personal development. I like reading books and learning. I would do book reviews. I sucked really bad. I could barely speak. I remember trying to like say a few sentences in a row on camera, and I couldn't. I had to edit and chop everything, and it sucked. So get over it. Everything you start at, when you start out, you're probably going to suck. If you don't want to be yourself on camera, just do a picture of your project and just walk through it talking at first. But eventually, get video, because video is the new medium. It's going to get bigger reach. People are going to know you. They're going to know what you look like. They know what your voice sounds like. They're going to know your expressions. And when you get on a call with them, it's going to be a much warmer lead than someone who's just seen a bunch of like flat pictures with some writing on it, right? So start getting on camera, videos, and get it out there in your marketing. Super important. Use ChatGPT, AIs to write content, but use your ideal client, your niche, your area to make it very fine-tuned and specific. And then finally, that video as well, it's going to help build a personal brand. And as much as your business will last forever, which I hope it does, in reality, a lot of businesses kind of, either the owner moves on or something happens to the business. Hopefully yours lasts for decades and there's no issues there. But if you built a personal brand and you've learned to market yourself, that is a skill you can take anywhere you want to go in life in the future. So it's not just about right now, but it's about the future of who do you want to be and where do you want to go. Really important. So last few things I'm going to say on marketing is now I'm going to get to the numbers part of it. So bear with me here. If you want to go to a $3 million business, as an example, let's run the numbers. So the average job size, I'm going to use this as a home builder example. Your average job size needs to be, let's say, 500,000. So $500,000 home that we're going to be building, something kind of entry level, depending on where you're located. In order to get to 3 million, you are going to need 6 new homes per year. 6 projects at 500K. That's going to get you to 3 million. So what does that entail? How many leads do you need? For my example here, you'd have to run your own numbers, but 120 leads that come in, you're going to qualify them. And this is a very key part of having a successful business that scales and grows is you're not taking on everybody that comes to you. There's 120 people that reach out to you. We want to build a new home. Out of those, probably about 60 of them are actually qualified to work with you. And by qualified, I mean they're in your area. They're looking to build a home that is in line with you. Their budget is in line with you. They're just the right type of clients. And there's a bunch of qualifying questions. Not going to get into all the nitty gritty details, but out of 120 leads, 60 are qualified. Out of those 60, maybe only about 30% of them actually gets to the estimating stage because maybe their budget's out. Maybe they realize that they don't know what they want for design. So you're probably going to have a drop off from 120 down to 30 actual estimates that you're going to do. From those 30 estimates, the proposals that you provide to clients, and I'm assuming that you have a pre-construction process to kind of nudge them forward from estimating to the actual build of the project. But let's say you have a 20% closing rate, which is very doable. And you may say, well, I've got like a 50% closing rate. Well, are your margins, are you actually making money? Are you profitable? And would you be profitable if you added a project manager and another admin person to your team, as well as started actually having a marketing budget? The answer is probably no, you'd probably be losing money. So that's why your closing rate may go down a little bit, but your margins are solid. So you go to 6 projects. So now we're at that 6 projects, 500K. We've got great margins. That means you need about 10 leads per month. I know there's a lot of math there, but essentially you need 10 solid leads per month of people that want to build a new home. And from that, you'll have about 6 homes that you'll do per year. So whatever that may be for you, your average job size and your closing rates, if you will, or your pipeline rates, how people drop off, go figure that out. And now you know how much you may need to advertise or market in order to reach that level of $3 million per year. All right. So we're going step by step. We're already on number 6, just flying through this here. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. It's just being conscious of what's going on and knowing where you need to focus and making sure you get one thing right before you move on to the next. And I hope you can see how if you're skipping steps or just breezing over it, everything needs to be built out in sequence, because otherwise you're not going to reach where you want to. And that's probably why you may feel like you're stuck or in a rut or unsure of like where to focus and what to do, right? So as we go through these steps, you're going to realize like, wow, I really need to go back to the drawing board and start from this step and then work my way forward. So number 6 here is consistent estimating. We've done a lot of work to get here already. Now we need to know how to estimate in order to reach our goals of that 3 million business. And growing a $3 million general contracting business, it's not overly complicated or difficult necessarily, but the difference is to be in one where you're not working even 40 hours a week, but like 60, 70, 80 hours a week, like a lot of general contractors, stressed out and overworked. Being in one where you're maybe working 30 to 40 hours a week, but doing jobs that you really love, like managing and maybe the sales and a little bit of estimating potentially, but you've got a project manager or 2, you've got an admin, you've got people dealing with the company, you've got systems in place, and you are an actual business owner, a business builder that can enjoy your business, not have your business run your life and be stressed out all the time. So that's the big difference here. With estimating, you want to build the template first, then use it to do the estimate. So if you're a home builder, you are going to build a few different templates probably for different sizes or styles of homes. If you get a new project that you're going to do something for the first time, like let's say you're doing, you've built a bunch of sort of family homes in the city, you get contacted by someone, they want to build this beautiful lake house that's, maybe an hour outside the city or whatever. You're like, looks fantastic. You've never really done a lake house before. You're building in a different area. It's got a boathouse. It's got a bunch bunch of like different features. Build the template first. So if you're doing some kind of new project, or if you're starting from scratch with templates, you want to build the template always first and then use that to make the estimate. It'll take a little bit longer, but every estimate after that, you've now built this template. And you can always go back to the template and revise it and improve it over time. So build the template first, very, very important. So the next thing I'm going to mention is margin versus markup. And this is something that's really important to understand, that they are not equal and there is a difference. And the reason that they're different is because when you're looking at your overhead expenses, you are looking at that as a percentage of your total sales, which is like a margin type calculation. When you're estimating, typically most contractors are going to be marking up. So you're chunking on, an extra 20, 25, 30% on top of your costs. So realizing that there's a difference, and the difference is when you start using that markup as like a percentage to understand your finances, there's a disconnect and it's not the same. And I'm getting that to that in the next step. But for now, just realize that there's a difference and we need to figure that out to make sure that you are estimating correctly for a business that's able to grow. Big problem I see with estimating is people are not charging for project management time. So you as the business owner, if you're doing probably like under 1 million or even 2 million, sometimes if you're doing larger homes and stuff like that, you may not have a project manager and you're like, I'll just mark it up an extra 5% and that's kind of like my salary or whatever. It's not a good way to do it because it doesn't set the stage for you to hire a project manager and actually pay someone to do the project management. You should always be charging for project management as its own line item, and you should be doing it as an hourly rate. So whether that's, $100 an hour, $150 an hour, whatever it may be, but you should be charging out project management as an hourly. So for a new home, whatever it may be, maybe that's 400 hours that you need to build a home, or 200 hours of project management time to build a new home, whatever it may be. You need to figure that out. Typically, it's going to be a couple of percentage, 4 to maybe 7% of a project, again, depending on scales in your area and all that kind of stuff. But the reason you want to do this is because later you can then see, wow, I could easily hire a project manager and you're covered. Plus, it'll start to make you think like, how much time am I spending on each of my projects? And how does that affect, what the costs are for the project? The other big part of estimating, of course, is creating the right software. A lot of people overthink this. There's a lot of great project management softwares out there. I've got other videos on, which softwares I like and which ones to choose. And they change over time. There's ones that I used to like and now I'm not as big a fan, and there's other ones that are better. So it can change over time, but essentially any good project management software is easily enough to get you to that 3, even 10, 20 million range. So as long as you have a decent project management software and you have some sort of takeoff software, if they're connected, great. If not, you have to get separate softwares. But those are really all you need for estimating, is a decent takeoff software and a good project management type software that's out there. Some people call them CRMs. I don't call them CRMs because for me, that's more on the marketing and sales side, but you get the idea. The big thing with estimating to realize is that because we did that work earlier with the marketing, we can now charge more and we can get the proper margins, which we're going to go over the money section in the next step. But undercharging projects, there's this vicious cycle that happens. The pain that you feel when business is down is nothing compared to the pain you're going to feel in the future if you start underbidding projects. It's often this like, you need to have that delayed gratification. I know it can be scary and it can be very hurtful when you maybe leads slow down. You've only got a couple of, your projects are kind of coming down, you're finishing off projects, you don't really have anything in the pipeline. It's like, wow, we really need to get something here really quick because we're out of cash flow, we're out of projects. What am I going to do with my project manager I hired or whatever? And that's why hiring too quick can really put you at a disadvantage over long term if you have these dips. So it can be attractive to, I'll just drop my margin by 5%, or I'll just tell the client that I can match that other contractor or whatever, right? It makes you feel good in the moment. It gets you some cash because you get a deposit, but you've just pushed out the goalpost to the future. And there's this vicious cycle that happens that now you're doing this project, but you're not making money on it. You're not making enough money on it. So you're still stressed out. And then you have to underbid the next job and then the next job. And you get in this vicious cycle of being the cheap contractor and underbidding projects. And that becomes a vice for you because now you're used to a certain closing ratio And you don't have to worry about marketing as much. You don't have to worry about sales as much. You're not learning the skills to actually be a successful, profitable general contractor who can show their value, who can sell higher quality, higher margin jobs. And you're kind of taking a shortcut that's going to shoot you in the foot and give you bigger pain in the future. So just want to get that off my chest here because I see it so often. And I'm not on my high horse here. Like I've done this before. I've been in those situations. And I've learned from experience that sometimes you just have to appreciate the low times and the times when you're chewing on glass and looking into the abyss. I think I've heard that one from Elon Musk when he was going, starting Tesla and stuff like that. Like you need to go through those times of like just realizing like, I don't want to undersell myself. Things will pick up. I just need to work on those the leading indicators, which is my marketing, my sales, my estimating, getting my numbers right. Because it's much better to land one job and get good margins than it is to land two or three jobs and be tight and then just run into issues. Because I'm not going to go on and on with this, but if you start projects that are low and then all of a sudden something happens, you missed something in the estimating, maybe prices went up for materials, maybe things didn't go well with the client and it's taking twice as long. Now you're screwed, right? Because you don't have those margins for a profitable business. All right. So now we're moving on to step number 6. I think I missed the last one. It was actually 5. I said 6, but hey, this one is 6. This one is get your money right. So we talked about estimating to get you in the right place. Now we're going to be talking about the actual financials of the business. And you can see that there's a lot of like this preliminary stuff before we ever even step foot on a job site. You need to get a lot of things figured out because that's where you got to start from the beginning. You got to start from the step 1 to make sure everything builds on top of the other. Your foundation is solid. Then we can scale. Then we can grow. Then we can do amazing projects. So number 6, get your money right. If you are broke doing 100,000 per year or 500,000 per year, you need to get your money really solid from the get-go. Often we think, if only I could like double my revenue or double the amount of sales I do, everything would be easier. I'd have more money flowing through the business. So I'd have more money coming to my bank account. When in reality, that is the opposite of what happens. You double your business, you're making less money because now you're going to have more overhead. You're going to be more stressed out. Your time is even more in demand. And if you haven't set up the systems and the profitability and the margins and everything correctly, you're just creating a bigger problem that's going to eat you alive and make you stressed out and ruin your day at the end of the day. So before you start growing and scaling, you need to get your money right. And I'm going to walk again through some numbers because you got to do this by the numbers. You got to realize this stuff. So it is important. And I'm just going to use $1 million as an example for a company. You can, of course, modify this for whatever level of business, but it works out well for the numbers. So let's say you're doing $1 million in sales. You're going to want to take home $100,000. You should be taking home 6 figures running a general contracting business. So that means 10% of your revenue is your salary. That's your take home salary. You're living off $100,000. At $1 million, your overhead, if you can keep it at 10%, you're doing really well. As you grow, and especially once you get project managers and this other things in there, project managers technically aren't overhead, but there's going to be some overhead with having that extra employee, if that makes sense. If you can keep your overhead to about 10%, maybe 15%, we'll say 10% for this example. That's $100,000 of overhead. 10% is your salary, 10% is your overhead. You're going to want to at least have a 5% profit on top of everything as contingency, as profit to invest later, which we're going to talk about. That leaves $750,000 for your operating expenses. That pays, for all your projects, materials, labor, what have you, right? So that is kind of a breakdown of big numbers for business. Now, if I said that you need $750,000 for operating expenses, and that means you got 100K salary, 100K overhead, 50K profit, what are your margins? You might be thinking, I don't know, sounds like 25%. Okay, sure. So if your margin is 25%, how much do you mark up your estimate? Is it 25%? 30%, 35%. So this is where the difference of margins and markups come into play, which I mentioned earlier. So you'd have a 25% margin there between your operating expenses and everything you need to pay yourself and your overhead and profit and all that stuff. But what the markup is, that's a 33% markup. So if you are a home builder and your markups are at 25%, you're probably not making any money. You're probably losing money. And you may not even be realizing because you're thinking, 25% markup, that should cover my salary, that should cover my overhead and make some profit at the end of the day. That's wrong. That's not enough. Maybe you're very lean, but most likely if you're feeling a crunch and you're feeling like I'm not really making any money at the end of the day, what's happening here? That is most likely the reason. So you need to mark it up more or figure out how to lower your overhead or expenses, which often is doable, but you don't want to limit your growth so much because you're not spending on advertising, you're not putting enough money, into the business in overhead to put that investment to grow the business, right? So this is where, as a builder, you're probably going to need at least 30 to 35% markup. And that's if your estimating is accurate. So that's a big caveat. If your estimating is not accurate and you forgot something, or prices go up, or it takes longer, or you get some bad weather or whatever, now you're kind of, up the creek without a paddle, so to say. And that's why it's so important to understand your numbers and also have contingencies in your estimating. So is that making sense? I just really want to get that clear, that you need that type of markup at least to have a profitable business. Now, as you grow, you're probably going to have more like 15% overhead. I've even seen some and successful contractors who have up to 25% overhead. They're doing very high end kind of, but very, very high margin type of work, government contracts, but they're running very high overhead, but they're still very highly profitable. But just realizing that there's the difference between markup and margins, and a lot of contractors don't see that. So now that we got that out of the way, how do we actually use our money in our business to ensure that we're operating like this? And I'm going to tell you about the profit first banking system. Essentially, the basics of it is you're going to have 5 different bank accounts. Stay with me here. This is a little bit technical, but it's not hard to understand. You're going to have an income account. So all your money goes into the income account. Wherever you get paid from, it goes in there. From there, you're going to distribute that money. So you got 100% of your money in the income account, and now you're going to distribute to that account. So you're going to put 5% into profit. Like we mentioned, you want to be at least 5% profitable. Next, you're going to put, let's say, 5% into taxes or 10% into taxes, so that it pays your corporate taxes as well as pays your personal income taxes, potentially, depending on how you want to structure things. Donations, if you help family or you have charities, whoever that you're providing money for. I like to have like an extra account, or just put extra in my tax account, so that I can use that as charity donations, goodwill for causes that we as a company support. So from there, operating expenses. So this is going to be a big one, right? We mentioned operating expenses. This can be like 75% potentially of the allocation. And that goes for all your building materials, your subs, your employees, whatever. And then you're going to have an owner's draw. So this is your salary. This is where your 100,000 comes in. That's going to be 10% potentially. Depending on your business and size, you're going to allocate at different percentages to these different bank accounts. But what you're doing now is you're being intentional with your money, not just putting it in one account and it's like, oh, I got 100,000 sitting there. I'm going to buy a new truck, or, go on vacation or whatever, right? It's like, no, this is what my profit, this is what my salary is, this is this, and you know where you can spend money from for the different things in your business. Does that make sense? If there's anything I've mentioned you'd like me to dive into something, drop a comment. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. There's links in the description, as I mentioned, to connect with us as well. We help general contractors, builders scale and systematize their business. If that is you, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you with that. Moving on to the next thing here. So invoicing and cash flow. I'm not going to do a full breakdown, but essentially you need to invoice sooner and quicker in better frequency to improve cash flow. Don't do big milestones like foundation and framing, 20% of the project, and now you're billing the client for like $100,000 or $200,000. They've got to get this big draw from the bank, and it's a lot of money, right? Much better to do it in stages. So if you have to do milestones, have like 10 or 12 or even 20 throughout the project, so that you can be invoicing every couple of weeks. So you've always got cash flow. Even better is just to go on a percentage basis, and you just can continually be invoicing, based on percentages, or if you're cost of materials, time plus or cost plus, then you can do like every 2 weeks be invoicing. But build up that invoicing frequency, and then always have a contingency in your bank account. So what I like to see is at least 6 months of overhead and personal expenses. So if your personal expenses are $10,000 per month, you should have $60,000 sitting in an account somewhere in case things go wrong, in case something happens. Same with your overhead. If your overhead is, let's say, $10,000 of overhead every month that you're churning out of your business to pay for, it's probably going to be more, but let's say $10,000 just to keep it simple for overhead expenses in your business. You should have $60,000 at least sitting in a bank account somewhere at all times as a contingency in case you get those slow dips, in case something happens, so you can weather that storm. You don't have to be stressing. You don't have to underbid or low bid jobs. You can just continue to operate and know that times will pick up and you'll replenish that account when you need it. All right, so we're moving on to step number 7 here. We're going to cruise through a couple of these next ones. There is actually 12 steps in total. It's a big system, but this is how you grow. This is how you scale. This is how much attention is needed. And each one of these steps, there's like depths of like massively how deep you can go and how optimal you can build out these systems. So step number 7 is client experience. You do not want to skip this step. A lot of people think, I really care about my clients. I make sure they're always happy. I always do a good job. We always come back and fix things. That's great. Good. That's the baseline. That's like everybody. You really need to be thinking of what's the experience my client has, as from when they see a piece of branding, all the way to when they complete the project, you hand it over, and even after the project. Having a pre-construction package or agreement, pre-construction services agreement, something like that early on is a necessary requirement. If you're a general contractor, you need to have some sort of pre-construction process or design. If you are asking your clients who reach out to you, finish up your work, go talk with this architect or interior designer, then come back to us, that's like, you're just wasting opportunities left, right, and center. You should always be involved with that process. Even if you don't want to be a design build company, you should have interior designers, architects in your back pocket that you work with closely, that you can send contacts to, and then you're part of that process, and you're selling them some sort of an agreement or a package where your involvement, they're paying for your time essentially to help guide them and doing like value add to the planning and design process. This will help bridge that gap as well from lead to construction agreement, is making you that expert in the process, guiding them so that you're getting paid for all the estimating, the design, the input, your professional expertise. And when it comes time to then move into the construction contract and the construction phase, pretty much a no-brainer. It's rare that someone's going to say like, no, we're going to go with somebody else after you've helped them through this whole pre-construction process. So that's very important, and it improves the client experience exponentially, because now they're not left in the dark of like, oh, I need to talk to this person, and they have like all these different moving components that they need to figure out. You need to figure that out. You need to give them that conveyor belt of like, this is where we start. Here's the agreement. This is what we're going to do. This is who you talk to. This is how we design it. This is how we're involved. And it's just like easy for them. You need to make it easy. Next thing with client experience is expectations. Always being what to expect. This is what you can expect through the pre-construction. This is what you can expect during the construction. This is what you can expect weekly from us. This is what you just go through those expectations. This is what you can expect for paying us. This is what you can expect for quality control, like all this kind of stuff. Talk to them. Best thing is to do is have a document or something you can work through with them. Set expectations. There will be dust. Things will go crazy. Don't paint this bleak picture, but be real with them. So when things do come up, it's like, you know what? This happened, right? You can call them. Those calls suck when you have to call the client, something bad happened. But if you've kind of set that expectation up front, you're just that much better off. A good expectation is, I will be available during normal business time hours. If you call me after 6 p.m., I am with my family and doing my own personal things, so I probably won't answer the phone. Feel free to leave a message and I'll get back to you in the morning, or send me an email and I will reply to you promptly. If it's an emergency, call the police, call the firefighter, whatever, right? So set those expectations up front. That way, later, when they say like, oh, I couldn't get a hold of you, and they're not going to be upset because you've already told them you're not available during those times. You get my drift here. Communication, weekly updates, super important. Send your clients a weekly update. This is what we got done this week. This is what we're doing next week. Here's some notes. This is on back order, or we need to change this, or we need to talk to you about this. Can you please schedule a call? Whatever it may be. But send weekly check-ins and updates with your clients so that they can always expect this ongoing cycle of communication. Yes, things will come up in the moment where you need to call them or talk to them or send them an email. There needs, especially in the pre-construction, a lot of stuff going back and forth. But during construction, you may be in these big phases where you're framing, or you've got concrete going on and there's like weeks in the schedule to do something. Make sure they're involved. They're going to want to know what's going on, and sending a weekly update, ideally in an email, it sets the stage for them, because now they are not thinking about what's happening. I need to call them. Like, I don't know about this. They know like on Friday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you're going to send it, they're going to send me an update. They're going to let me know what's going on. They feel in the loop, and there's going to be less times that they need to reach out to you. And then finally is feedback. So always making sure that if there are any issues or any problems, you're upfront right away. You're honest, you're trustworthy. You're always building that trust with them, and you're always asking them for feedback of how things are going, how they're feeling. Is this what you expected? All this kind of stuff, so that you're always getting feedback and improving your client experience for your clients. Now we're moving on to step number 8 here, and this is project management. Just as I mentioned earlier, where you do good work, quality is the baseline for project management. Because you have 20 years of experience, 30 years of experience, and you do great quality work and you hire amazing subs, that's just expected. That's a baseline. Good. Tell people that. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff about project management, much more than just the quality of the work you do. Scheduling is a big one. Biggest fears of clients is typically project's going to go over schedule. It's going to take longer than expected, and it's going to cost them more money than expected. So those are two things you need to watch like a hawk and really be on the ball with scheduling. And the biggest thing that I've learned with scheduling is you need some buffers. Construction is crazy and you need to have some buffers. So between, like to use framing and concrete as an example, but between any major trades, you need some buffer in there. So between your electrician, plumber, HVAC, if they're not going to be working on top of each other, which most of them don't, you want to have at least a day or two buffer between them. So if one's on there, they need 5 days to complete their work. The next one needs 4 days. Have at least a day buffer in there so that if they go over schedule, or maybe they've got a guy cleaning up that last day, that you can mitigate that. And if you end up, which I almost never happens, but if it ends up that you're ahead of schedule, you can always move people in or take care of things. This will also get you in the habit of like having a little bit of extra time to make sure things are done correctly. As you know, you like to rush through projects and something's not 100% completed. It's like, just move on to the next thing, get the next trade in there. Let's keep going. Let's keep that pace. Let's keep moving. And there's this laundry list of items that wait to the end. And then you're going to close out and do your punch list. And it's like, there's all this garbage that needs to get fixed and cleaned up and completed. And it's like, oh, we still haven't done that yet. That was like 3 trades ago, right? So having some buffer in there, super important. Always be proactive. So looking 2 to 4 weeks out every week, who I need to call to schedule, what materials are we going to need. This should all be in your schedule so that you know when to order things and all that kind of stuff. But always be forward thinking and looking multiple weeks out of like what's coming up. How can I get ahead of it? And then the last thing I'm going to mention about project management is quality control checklist. There should be specific phases of a project. There should be a specific quality control checklist, and every single thing needs to be completed before moving on to the next phase. And have a little bit of buffer in there if you need people to come back and fix it, right? So major inspections would be one of them before you board up the walls with, drywall, gyprock, whatever you want to call it. All of these like critical stages, you need a very built out checklist to make sure quality is 100% completed. You've got tons of photos of everything before moving on to the next stage. That way, when you get to the end of the project, you're not scrambling. You're not having to get a whole bunch of stuff together. You're not having these little loose ends that make you look like a bad contractor. I had a client, they built a lot of new homes every year. And just by incorporating good quality control checklists, like their whole world changed. He told me like, man, I called my project manager, like asking him like, how much longer do we have on this project? I was thinking it would be a couple of weeks yet, because usually it takes us a few weeks after the project's, kind of completed to finish off all the punch list stuff. And he said it was already done, that they had tackled it all. They got the checklist done like a couple of days ago. And so he was just so surprised, like just having some good quality control measures and having people that actually check it and actually get things done just changes your world as far as project management. All right. So now we're finally moving on to step number 9, and we are on human resources. So as you can see, most people are only doing about 50% of the work. Like all the things I mentioned, a lot of general contractors out there, they're only doing about 50% of this, like actually well or have thought about it. And that's one of the reasons why they're not getting results, because they're stuck in some other process here and they've jumped ahead to hiring people, human resources, and some of these other like steps that I'm going to mention here to kind of close off this training for you. You need to get everything else right. But that's why there are, these big steps, because you need to get everyone in place. So as far as like who to hire and how to hire for human resources, hire slow, fire fast, and wait a little while before you hire that next person. I know it can be really like, especially if you're waiting. I can't wait to get, 4 homes in production so that I can finally hire a project manager and not have to manage projects anymore, right? So I feel you. I know, I understand how that is. And you're kind of waiting for that, but realize that you really need to make sure that demand is there before you hire. The one kind of caveat to this is your admin person. I don't care really how big you are, as long as you've got some revenue, you should have an admin person on your team taking care of some of the back end stuff for you so you can concentrate on higher level tasks. At around like the 1 to 3 million mark, especially once you get into the 3 million mark, you're probably going to have at least 1 to 2 like carpenters on payroll. I would suggest sticking with subcontractors. It's just an easier system to run if you got good subcontractors, as far as like your like your carpenters and stuff like that. But it's good to have like 1 or 2 carpenters on payroll, because they can go in and fix things here and there. You can keep them busy cleaning up. There's always stuff to do, setting up signs and, taking care of smaller projects or whatever, right? So definitely good to have a few of those on the staff. The admin person, as I mentioned, you should have a virtual assistant or an admin person, office manager, whatever you want to call it, as soon as possible. And if you need to hire them part-time for 5 hours a week, then do that. But they should be doing some like, ideally you have a bookkeeper, but if you need to do like tracking expenses and stuff like that, they should be doing that, answering the phone, taking care of some paperwork kind of stuff, maybe managing your inbox of the emails, just getting rid of all those little things that distract you, that take your time, that you should not be focused on, that you should be focused on, this other bigger stuff that we've been talking about today. So very, very important. And then before you hire any person, you want to make sure their roles and responsibilities are in place. So what's the role? You don't want to hire someone and then have them kind of fill the role or tell you what to do, or, oh, she's been an office manager for 20 years at another construction company. I'm going to hire them so that they can tell me what to do and they should know how to do everything. Well, you need to be intentional with like, what is the role for your company? What makes sense for you? Yes, they'll bring their experience. Yes, you're going to listen to them and get feedback, and they're probably going to help you with your systems and processes, but you need to build that role first of like, what are they going to do? What's their accountabilities? What's their responsibilities? And then also, what kind of training are you going to have in place so that they can get a good onboarding experience? Because you don't want to bring them in to something that's not defined. And now they're like, there's no systems, there's no processes here. I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I guess I can do this stuff because it's what I did at my other company. And it's just a bad experience, and they're more likely to bounce. And you're going to have like this churn of employees if you don't have that proper onboarding and training for them. And then finally, you're going to want a project manager. And I believe a project manager should also do estimating. Yes, you're going to check the estimating, and you're going to make sure that the pricing is accurate, the scope of work is accurate, that everything makes sense. But you should be able to hire a project manager, especially once you have a few projects on the go. You can easily have a project manager take care of the projects because you've got it in your estimate. You know that your pricing is right and you can afford them, as well as you can have them start doing the estimating, which frees up a ton of your time. And I'm sure that should be setting off like, wow, I don't have to do estimating anymore, right? So that is the HR kind of blueprint for this big step of growing to that $3 to $5 million business. All right, so we got a few more steps. I'm going to cruise through these pretty quickly here because these are ones that you should be aware of, but we don't need to spend a ton of time on them. Step number 10 is leadership. So you built this amazing business so far. Now the roadblock to get to that next level is going to be leadership of you communicating with your team in new ways, because now you're going to be away from the site. Now you've got a project manager, you've got an admin person, you've got some carpenters on site. You are going to be kind of elevated, and you're not going to have as direct contact with the clients as you normally would with the quality control. And this is where reputation can start to take a dive because you're not there as much, and things can kind of go off the rails if you're not there to learn how to lead other leaders, essentially. So first, you're going to set example, and you also need to be willing to detach. By detach, I mean you need to give people space to do their job, but you need to check in upon them, and then constantly be providing them support. Let them know if you're struggling with anything, if there's any issues that come up, whatever it is. I want to help you with that. Not that I don't want you to make decisions and take care of those issues, but I'm here to help and guide you and coach and mentor you essentially in your role in the company. So learning that style of leadership is the next step. Step number 11 is wealth building. So now you've got your $3 million business, $5 million business, you're making six figures, your life is pretty good, you've got your systems, your people in place. Now you got to be thinking, what's the next 5, 10, 15 years look like? Do I eventually want to leave and retire from this? Do I want to move on to another business? Do I want to scale this business to $30 million? Whatever it may be, you're going to want to start doing wealth building. So you're going to take that 5% profit that we mentioned earlier. Hopefully you've maybe even increased it from 5%, but at least 5%. And you're going to put that in investments that build wealth over time. What I would say to get started with, and I'm not a financial advisor, so always go talk with a professional in this field before making investment decisions, things like that. But typically, this is the way that I would suggest it, is that you want to be putting money in low risk type stocks, things like that, to just put a place to kind of park your money and have it grow over time and snowball. And then eventually, once you've kind of built up this portfolio, then maybe look at real estate investing. But I would look at more passive real estate investing. For me, I value my time more, and real estate investing looks like a great idea when you're a contractor contractor, and I've done this before, and it's a ton of work though. Even rentals, it's a lot of work unless you can figure out a way to get a property manager in there and kind of get it off your plate. But there's no like free lunch passive income that I've found anyways with real estate. Typically, it's generally better to invest in other people that are doing it and just get a return from it. But that's my 2 cents on it. If you want to do flips, you want to build apartment complexes and rent them out, or whatever, be a land developer, by all means get there. But to get to that 3, 10, $20 million company, you don't need to go through all of that work in order to reach your goals of where you want to be. So final step here is step 12. And this step, if you want to get all of this done, everything I've talked about, up to 2 to 5 times quicker. I've seen contractors take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to do this. I talk to contractors who have been in this for 20, 30 years and still aren't here yet. If you want to do this quicker and easier, 10 times less risky, and amplify your results, you want to get a coach or a mentor. And I know I'm speaking as a coach and a mentor, but the reason I'm saying this is because I've had coaches, I've had mentors, great people in my life that have got me to where I am now. And they've got me there with a lot less headaches, a lot less issues. They've illuminated my blind spots. They've given me so much knowledge that I can now pass on to other people. And I'm so grateful for them. One of the wisest investments you can make is reaching out to a mentor or a coach and having them help you with this business, this process, all these steps that you're going through, because they're going to be able to get you there so much faster. And whether this is another business owner that's successful that you know, or whether this is a professional coach or a program that you go through, get the help that you need. It's going to help you avoid pain. It's going to take care of your bottlenecks, remove blind spots like I mentioned. It's going to give you a fresh perspective from the outside. We're often so ingrained in our business that we think we know the right thing. Again, that ego where it's like, I know what I need to do, and I watched this video and it makes sense, so I need to do this. But we don't have that perspective of someone who's actually seen 10, 20, 30 other businesses like ours having to go through these struggles and these pains. They haven't, you've only been in probably your one business. Maybe this is your second business, but a good coach or mentor, they've gone through multiple businesses and helped multiple other business owners that are in your shoes get to where they want to go. They have a proven system, and they're able to give that fresh perspective from outside your company, and a proven consistent method in order to do that. So hope this video has helped you. Go check out some of our other content. Every step of this that I've mentioned here, we've got specific videos. Go to our channel, search for whatever step that you want, and there will be specific videos on how to do those better. See you there. Here's to your success.